Good evening from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for pro wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. We're just hours away from tonight's episode of SmackDown, which will feature two Money in the Bank qualifying matches, as well as Roman Reigns' 1,000th day Universal Championship celebration. So we have a lot to talk about. And also we're going to be discussing, after what was a very, very busy weekend last weekend, what the best show was, because we had Impact Under Siege, we had NXT Battleground, we had Night of Champions, and we had Double or Nothing. It was stacked. But which was the best? We will be discussing this. Joining me today, firstly, the head of opinions here at Wrestling Republic, Anthony Ricciardi. How are you today, Anthony?
Doing all right. Looking forward to talking about Roman's 1,000-day reign and talking about last weekend's shows because it was stacked.
It truly, truly was. And also joining us today, Shad Huda. How are you, Shad?
What's going on, bro? I'm doing well, man. Excited to talk about the large amount of stuff that's about to happen today. Today is a big wrestling day. Let's not get it twisted. SmackDown Rampage is a stat card. So we in June. This is my birthday month. I'm happy about that. But yeah, let's go.
Absolutely. I mean, happy birthday to you soon as well, by the way, Shad.
Appreciate that.
I forgot about Rampage. That's how much there is going on today. Rampage is for one stacked as well. We'll probably get into that maybe a bit later on. Now, you guys might be wondering, hang on a second, where's Clark? He's usually here on a Friday, and Clark is the best man at another wedding today. So shout out to Clark, and also shout out to Coby, who unfortunately can't be on the show today because of some works going on near him. Bit loud, but hopefully they will be back very, very shortly. But let's get into it and firstly talk about what the best wrestling show was from last weekend. Let's break it down one by one. Firstly, let's talk Impact Under Siege. And it featured, of course, Ace Austin and Chris Bay of Bullet Club versus Subculture. And this was the match that Drizzy, shout out Drizzy, earlier in the week on the podcast said was one of his matches of the year so far. And also it featured PCO versus Macklin in what I actually thought was PCO's best match in years, if not maybe ever. I actually really enjoyed it, and I'm going to be completely honest here. I wasn't really expecting to. But, I mean, it was a really, really strong show, Impact Under Siege. And, of course, it went under the radar this week because the amount which was going on. And also, it's not, one of Impact's traditional big shows. But it was a really, really strong one. Then we get to Night of Champions, which, of course, featured the brilliant Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles match for the World Heavyweight Championship. And it also featured Gunther versus Mustafa Ali for the Intercontinental Championship in a match which I just thought was a banger. And then, of course, in a match which was just storytelling brilliance, Cody Rhodes took on and got killed by Brock Lesnar before that amazing main event where Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn took on Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa of the Bloodline, with then Jimmy turning on Roman Reigns. Wow, what a show that was. And then let's get on to NXT Battleground, which of course featured the match which everybody has been talking about this week in Dijak taking on Dragunov. And a lot of people are saying this is their match of the year so far. It was truly something. Check that out if you haven't already. And a lot of people have also been saying that event, NXT Battleground, was the most takeover-like event NXT have done since TakeOver itself, or any of the takeovers. But then, of course, let's not forget about Double or Nothing. The Four Pillars match was fantastic. The arena anarchy in the arena match as well was a lot of fun. Apart from that, the card kind of fell short in a lot of places. We discussed that earlier in the week, but I mean, wow, there might have been, dare I say, maybe this is an overreaction, but dare I say more great wrestling this past weekend than there was WrestleMania weekend, because that's usually the biggest weekend in professional wrestling, because it was stacked. It truly, truly was. But Anthony, I will head to you first. What was your show of last weekend?
Double or Nothing for me was probably the weakest of the pack. To me, there were only two redeeming matches from that. The Four Pillars and the Anarchy were the only ones that I really liked. The rest of the show, it didn't do anything for me. Battleground for me, the Dragunov match was probably the only match that I really liked. Night of Champions was great. The Cody Brock match, the storytelling I thought was phenomenal in that. The strongest, though, for me, oddly enough, is probably Under Siege. Impact gets so underrated, but, Trey Miguel's been on such a run with the X Division Championship going against Chris Sabin, essentially somebody that built that division 20 years ago and is still going strong. Their match was great. Deonna Purrazzo defending the women's title against Jordan Grace was probably one of the best women's matches of the year. And PCO and Macklin was an absolute bloodbath. I mean, the brutality in that match, PCO getting his lips stapled shut like Frankenstein. The show delivered. There were bright spots on all the shows this weekend, but, to kick it off with Under Siege, that was the show everyone else had to follow.
Yeah, no, that is something which in the comments over on YouTube, Numero One Superfly agrees with. He's saying that Under Siege delivered the best show out of all the pay-per-views delivered this weekend. And we got Matt Williams in the comments shouting out his best show of the weekend was Succession, a show which both me and Anthony absolutely love.
I will say I watched Double or Nothing, regretted it. Should have watched Succession, watched Double or Nothing the next day. However, I watched Succession, then Battleground. Because priorities.
Okay. A little diss there on NXT, but no, it really was, of course, Succession. I'm a huge, huge fan of it. And it was a great finale. I won't spoil it, don't worry, for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. But if you've not watched Succession, you should check it out. But what about you, Shad? What was your show of the weekend?
First and foremost, like you guys mentioned, last weekend had its moments of just incredible in-ring wrestling, incredible moments, just overall. I enjoyed the Impact show a lot. I think it had a lot of phenomenal in-ring matches. Trey Miguel is one of my favorite pro wrestlers in the industry now, and Deonna Purrazzo is probably like the best in-ring female wrestler in North America. So I think they had a hell of a card. But to me, with just the overall matches, moments, and everything tied to it, and just a show that kind of flowed together, I'm gonna go with Night of Champions. I think the entire card itself was either good to great. I thought that AJ Styles and Seth opening the match, even though people had a opinion towards it being the new title starting off the show, I think they really set the tone. That match was incredible. I mean, you saw just incredible in-ring work, and those guys put it all on the line. The women's matches, seeing 3 women's matches happen in Saudi, like that's just incredible to me. I mean, we got to see Asuka and Bianca have one of the more creative finishes in my mind for a women's title match in WWE. Becky and Trish had a pretty good match overall, with the surprise of allowing Zoe Stark to debut in a line with Trish. I thought that was pretty cool. And then, of course, my man Mustafa Ali getting his moment and being able to have the match with Gunther where it was just great chemistry. You got to see Ali kind of feel like a superhero out there in Riyadh, and just, of course, fall short. And you see the dominant reign from Gunther, but I thought they had a great match. And then, Cody and Brock, I mean, that in-ring Storytelling was phenomenal for that. And then for me, the biggest moment was the bloodline, like the deception of what's going on with them. Like you see the Jey Uso, turn, or the double two super kicks. You got to see Sammy talking Arabic, like get the reception that he had. I don't know. I loved everything about the show. I felt like it was just it was a spectacle. Like it was just really great to see how the crowd was receptive and all of that. So Night of Champions to me was the strongest show. Under Siege is number 2. 3, I'm gonna give it to NXT because I'm a big NXT guy. My girl Tiffany Stratton is now the champion, and I'm gonna put. Unfortunately, I think AEW definitely had the weakest show of the weekend. I will say this, with 2 of the best matches of the weekend, and possibly the best match of the weekend with the 4 Pillars match. But everything else, obviously, we talked about in the last review show. But I'm going with Night of Champions.
That is a great shout, and I pretty much agree with you there. For me, I pretty much achieved the exact same. I was thinking about it. Double or Nothing going into it. I'm going to be honest. I wasn't surprised. I did think that it was going to be the weakest show over the weekend. A few things on that card weren't as good as I thought, such as Jericho, Adam Cole, but then also a couple of things actually slightly exceeded my expectations slightly, such as the tag team match FTR against Jarrett and Lethal. But overall, yeah, I think that there's something about AEW as well. It was one of I think it was actually the longest show of the weekend, which also doesn't help when, it's a really long show. And Night of Champions was somewhat long as well, but it just, like you said, it flowed a lot better. Each match flowed into the next, and it was a really fun, feel-good show, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I had a lot of fun watching. Admittedly, I said this last week as well, a tiny little bit of bias might come in there from me, because, of course, it was on at an appropriate time for me in the UK, so I was able to watch it, in the afternoon without having to, worry about being tired at 3 a.m. We got Matt Williams here, though, and he is saying in the comments over on YouTube that he hated the Cody Brock storytelling because of Cody passing out from a Kimura, as it makes 0 sense. I mean, you can't pass out from pain. I mean, in reality, yeah, he'd probably tap. I do agree with that, but at the end of the day, wrestling, they've done that in wrestling for years. That's nothing that new, really. John Cena, of course, never wanted to tap, and I guess they're doing that same thing now with Cody. Because they want to make him feel like he doesn't want to give up. He wants to fight till the end. You're gonna have to kill him to stop him. But yeah, I mean, people have faded in real life from submissions. Body submissions which aren't chokes, so it's not completely unrealistic there, but I do see the point, Matt. But yeah, we did have a lot of good shows this past weekend indeed. But now let's move on to this weekend, and specifically tonight on SmackDown, as we have got Money in the Bank qualifiers coming up. Of course, the Money in the Bank pay-per-view will take place in just a few weeks' time now. Well, actually, a month's time now. Almost bang on a month, actually. From here in London. I'll be there in person. I'm excited for it. Me and Chaos will both be there getting some content in for you guys. But tonight, we have got a men's qualifying match as Montez Ford will be taking on LA Knight. And I'm kind of surprised by this match, and I'll tell you why. These are 2 men who I actually think should both be in the Money in the Bank ladder match, right? Because LA Knight, Peter Ryan today on WrestlingRepublic.com wrote an opinion piece on why LA Knight should win Money in the Bank. And I've been critical about a potential LA Knight push in the past. Very simply because of his age, right? He's 40 years old. And yes, people, have come in and made an impact at that age. But usually it's a few years younger. And a lot of the examples which people have given, I mean, all of them are at least a few years younger. So I think at 40 years old, you're not going to be able to build him into a mainstream star. You're not, right? But here's the thing. If you got Roman Reigns as champion in one company, not in one company, on one brand, could you have LA Knight as, world champion on the other brand? Because Roman Reigns draws in the money, but LA Knight, draws in the money with the hardcore fans. So perhaps that's a potential. That's a possibility, right? But I don't know how to feel about it. But there is no denying right now, LA Knight is over. He's one of the most over guys in the company. And there's money to be made off of that. So I do think that he undoubtedly should be in this Money in the Bank match. It's a no-brainer for me, and I think it's somebody who they have to very much consider winning the entire match if you're not going to have one of the younger recent call-ups from NXT win it. Of course, you can cash in on mid-card titles now too after last year. I mean, I didn't like it last year. Who knows? Maybe they'll do it better this year. If that was the case, and LA Knight as a singles champion would be phenomenal. That would be certainly something. But now let's talk Montez Ford. I just feel like Montez Ford, he's young, but now would be the best time to put him as a single star. I've said it before. I think you keep him and Angelo Dawkins together, keep the Street Profits a thing, but then just give, them singles runs together from time to time. And Montez Ford, sending him now, into the not necessarily main event scene, but upper mid-card scene, would be brilliant. They did it at Elimination Chamber earlier this year, and he was brilliant in it. So I really think it'd be a no-brainer for him to be in this Money in the Bank ladder match. But of course, only one man can be in it. So my prediction is going to be LA Knight. But Shad, what do you think?
I share a lot of similar thoughts as you on this topic. Money in the Bank ladder match, I mean, it has Montez Ford written all over in the match style. I mean, he's a high flyer. He knows how to create moments within ladder matches. You want to have him in there, but I mean, you can't also deny or neglect the fact that LA Knight is just reached a level of being so over that it surprised me. You got crowds and Saudi chanting his name and he's not even on the card. So I feel like you're in a and it makes me upset that this is the match for the qualifying match, because I feel like you have a strong case for either guy. I've been one to say that I want to see something with Montez Ford that allows him to show and continue to be the superstar that he is. I mean, the guy has the look, he has the in-ring ability, he has everything that can be a future champion. Like you said, he's early 30s. He's right in his prime age as a pro wrestler. You need to do something with that. I love the Street Profits as a tag team, but it's kind of a situation where I feel like what's next for them? We know that they're, the baby faces, the fun team and whatnot, but are you going to turn them heel, or are you going to give them more of an edge? What's going to make it more captivating for them to be champs, rather than kind of run the same type of feuds? And I don't think you necessarily need to break him up, like you said, to let him kind of do a little solo thing. So I would love for him to be in the match, but LA Knight's not. I can't see him lose tonight. I mean, there's a reason why people are wanting him to win Money in the Bank, and it's because he's super over, and that's money right there. Him with the briefcase, how well of a talker, how entertaining he is, what he can do with that. I mean, it's one of those shoe-in fits if he does win it, where it's gonna, one, you have a star who's strong enough where I can believe that he may be able to take, let's say he goes for Seth's title. I can see that happen. I can see him cashing out on Seth and having his moment when his time is right. But two, the Money in the Bank briefcase thing is always historically in recent times had a little bit of a humor aspect to it. We saw it with the short time with Boombox Brock. Sorry, I'm slurring my words. We saw it with the Otis stuff. He can find a way to make it creative and whatnot. So I think LA Knight's winning tonight. I'm gonna be bummed because I do want Tez to be in a match. I know they do that second chance match. Maybe he wins that. But I got LA Knight. Yeah, winning the night.
Yeah, I agree with that one. And Numero One Superfly is thinking very similarly because he is saying that, yeah, maybe LA Knight will win tonight, but then Montez Ford wins a second chance match. And I mean, we don't know how many people, I don't think we know how many people are going to be in the ladder match this year. I might be wrong on that. They might have already said. But I think it's entirely possible. Maybe they do 3 from each brand, and then they do a second chance, making the, seventh person in, and perhaps, Montez Ford wins that. Or maybe, I mean, I'd actually almost say that perhaps you have LA Knight lose this, have Montez Ford win with like a roll-up or something. After they have a really good match. And then, the crowd really wants LA Knight to, get in the match or whatever, and they really start chanting for him even more. And he starts to build up even more momentum. And then he wins the second chance match and then ends up winning Money in the Bank. That could be interesting as well. But currently he's a heel, so that kind of be a weird thing, but they've done weirder. But let's now move on to the other Money in the Bank qualifying match taking place on tonight's edition of SmackDown. And that is in the women's Money in the Bank division. Zelina Vega will be taking on Lacey Evans. And I'm going to put my feelings for Lacey Evans aside, right? Obviously, I don't like what she says. There's an entire episode on it if you want to go back a few months. But putting my feelings for her aside, right? Being non-biased, I truly do think Zelina Vega should win this match because she was so over at Backlash. And the company, WWE, they really just haven't benefited, on that. They haven't taken that any further. And it's kind of annoyed me because she was so over. They could have put her right into a really great singles feud, and they just haven't. But I really think she should be in that match. And I think she should get the win tonight, because she is so, so great and so, so over right now. But Anthony, what do you think? Who between these two do you see getting the victory?
Zelina should win it. Like you said, the appearance at Backlash, the crowd was so hot behind her. And they've tried to push Zelina in the past. They gave her the Queen of the Ring, which went nowhere, which was a shame. She seems to have a new spark now that she's in the revised LWO. She should win it. I am concerned that they would give it to Lacey because they keep trying to push Lacey despite the crowd really not caring. Zelina should win it, but like you said, they haven't done anything with the momentum from Backlash. Didn't she lose to Rhea like 2 weeks ago or something? Whatever it was, they had her tap out. That's right. Natalia came out to save her or whatever. But Zelina should, but I'm afraid that they won't do that. Just based on their track record with trying to push Lacey. I don't know why. But Zelina's the right choice. I don't know if they're going to make it, though.
Could you see either of these women actually winning the Money in the Bank match, or do you think these are just people to fill up the numbers in the match?
I think it depends on who else is in it. And the same thing like the men's, it really depends on who's in it. I think as far as LA Knight, I think LA Knight's a strong front runner for it. But again, we don't know who's else in this thing. We don't know if Cody's in it or he's going to do Brock again. But Zelina, out of the two, Zelina, I think, could pull it off. The only problem is that they have is Rhea is the type of champion, almost like Roman. You need believable challengers. And I don't know if either one of them are believable challengers against Rhea. Like, that's the problem when you have a dominant champion or somebody that's the suspension of belief has to be extra. That Zelina would be her. Like, I think that's the problem. There is a free agent out there. Jordan Grace is a free agent. I would love if WWE decided to bring her in, and I'm just spitballing right off the wall. If they had a mystery person in the women's and Jordan was the mystery person, I would like to see Jordan and Rhea personally.
Do you think she'd get a reaction, though, with the WWE main roster crowd?
You can easily do that with packages. I don't worry so much about that because I think in a lot of ways, because wrestling's so accessible now, I think more people tend to know other people in companies, and I think the few that probably don't, you do video packages. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, yeah, it's just the surprise. People might get their hopes up for some reason. Oh, it's Sasha Banks or something. But I would love that because Jordynne Grace is so good and she would be excellent.
The matchup would be phenomenal. The two of them could work really well together, I think.
It would be brilliant. But we got numero one Superfly in the comments, and they are saying, how many character changes has Lacey Evans had? A lot. I mean,
it's like 3 or 4, isn't it?
They took away her best gimmick. I thought the Southern Belle was the best.
That was the original one.
She had. Yeah, this G.I. Jane kind of thing is.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't happen to a worse person. I'm joking. But let's now talk Roman Reigns. Actually, no, let's not talk Roman Reigns. I'm missing a topic.
Yes, you are.
Let's talk about something which just happened just before we went on air. WWE retweeted a tweet from a Hit Row, and it was a Hit Row diss track on the OC. Kind of didn't see this coming, but it happened, and it was quite a funny diss track at all members of the OC. So I'm presuming we're going to be getting Hit Row versus the OC tonight on SmackDown, or at least that feud starting. A little bit of a weird one, but I'm intrigued to see where it would go. I really, really do hope. And I also don't know why this didn't air on SmackDown. I always say, at AEW, I always say, why wasn't this on Dynamite, or should have been on Dynamite? I've got to say the same thing here too. This should be on SmackDown if that is the direction they're going, because it's a good diss. I think it would have been fine to be on SmackDown. I can't remember there being anything which couldn't be on TV said in it. But Shad, what did you think of the diss track and this feud going forward?
Well, for those who don't know, I'm also a battle rapper. My name is McShotty on there, so I'm pretty well versed in the diss track dissing field. But I like it. I mean, I think so. Salute to Top Dollar. That's my guy. He's retweeted my battles on Twitter before, so he's a great dude, and he's from the DMV, and we kind of look like each other. I like it. I mean, I think he does stuff that really is very kind of similar to what Max Caster does on AEW. I mean, their gimmick is true to themselves. He is a rapper. They kind of got the hip hop aspect of their gimmick, and they're also heels. So a good way to attack your opponent is dissing them. And I think it's something that I think they should put on the TV. I mean, as long as he's not, saying anything, crazy, obviously, because I know it's different on cable television with Max compared to being on Fox, with profanity and stuff like that. But I think it's good. I mean, we've seen it before. Like I remember John Cena's Dr. Thugonomics gimmick. He used to go and diss his opponents before and stuff like that. Allowing him to have a little segment where he drops maybe like 30 seconds of his diss song where it's the best bit and the strongest line to it. I think it'll be good, and it'll help them get over. I mean, I think the thing with Hit Row is they, on NXT with Swerve, had the juice. Like, they had the appeal to it, and I loved it when they initially came out as heels. Then they became popular enough where they made them baby faces, and they just lost the direction on the main roster. They obviously, unfortunately, got let go and came back, but on their return, I feel like there's been direction in this. They haven't really had anything happen for them. So I'm excited to see him wrestle these last 2 weeks. I do think it's just really going to be a kind of impromptu squash match for the OC, because I definitely believe that Gallows and Anderson are the stronger team and the stronger tag team and in a better position within it, with being aligned to the OC and obviously with AJ and all that. But if it's just a little short mini feud, I'm not mad at it. I mean, it can help Hit Row get on TV. I mean, I don't know where B-Fab is as a wrestler at this moment, but like you could do something with her and Mia Yim. Maybe a six tag, like a 6-person tag with the women in it. You could do that. So I'm not mad at it. It's not gonna be something that's gonna get the crowd going oohs and ahs for it. But I like seeing them have the opportunity to be on TV and us having a fresh match.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've always thought they've had potential, and of course, the top dollar botch earlier this year, which number one Superfly is saying, "Do you still expect Michael Cole to bury top dollar for not going over the top?"
Well, he lost a lot of weight now. Like he's slimmed down a lot, so he's got more speed and athleticism to his body and whatnot. I mean, he was a big dude when he tried to do that, but that botch was pretty bad. So I ain't gonna lie, I can't be mad at that comment.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to them, I feel like people have just been overly. I mean, Swerve in NXT was, of course, he was always no, I don't want to say the highlight. He was the highlight of the group. I'll just say it as it is, right? So once they returned and Swerve wasn't there, I feel like people were a little bit down on them and never really gave them a chance. But they really do. They have potential. I really do believe that because they're entertaining. They can just be something, good and entertaining in the mid-card. These raps, putting them on WWE television, that's entertainment.
Right.
I presume they'll probably be entering with it tonight if it is just an impromptu match, and that's probably why they won't show it on TV. So it's just a music video online, and then they'll actually do it live performing or whatever. Maybe that's the direction. But also, Ashante the Adonis, he's underrated. He really is. I think he's great in the ring.
I agree.
So, I mean... Let's give Hit Row a chance. # give Hit Row a chance.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see where this goes tonight on SmackDown. Very quickly, before we get into our last topic, I'm just going to quickly run down the AEW Rampage card for tonight. Not as quick as Excalibur does it, unfortunately. I'm not as good at it. Not as good as at it as he is. See? But firstly, we got El Hijo del Vikingo taking on Commander Andralistico for the AAA Mega Championship. That is going to be...
That's going to be incredible.
A lot of flips, and I need to check that out for certain. That is going to be very entertaining. Also, Willow Nightingale. Shout out Willow Nightingale. Of course, she defeated Mercedes Moné for the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. Well, she will be defending that title tonight on AEW television. The Forbidden Door is opened against Emi Sakura. And then we've got Zack Sabre Jr. Well, the Forbidden Door is going to open again because Zack Sabre Jr. is taking on Action Andretti for the New Japan Pro Wrestling TV title. And then one final time, the Forbidden Door is opening again as Shibata, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, will be taking on a guy who you guys know I'm a fan of. I've given him credit for a few years now. I said 3 years ago he was going to be the next big thing. Lee Moriarty. I'm so excited for that match. This card, right, and everybody knows I'm tough on Rampage, but this Rampage card is incredible. It's also in every single match. I mean, there's some tie to the Forbidden Door, whether that's the New Japan or AAA Forbidden Door, but that is brilliant. I'm excited for Rampage tonight. It's Championship Night, I believe they're calling it. A Championship Friday. Now, why they're stacking the show this much, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and find out. But I'm not complaining about it. It really is a stacked card. And for the first time in a while, I'm saying it, I'll be watching AEW Rampage tonight. But now let's go over and let's talk about SmackDown, more specifically the Bloodline, and even more specifically Roman Reigns, as tonight is his 1,000-day Universal Championship celebration. But the real question is, who should his next challenger be? Of course, we saw Jimmy turn on him, leaving Jey Uso in shock and to be slightly conflicted, but seemingly siding with his brother Jimmy at Night of Champions. So you'd have to presume that Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa will be teaming up to take on the Usos at the next pay-per-view. Well, there's a slight issue. If Roman Reigns doesn't defend the championship at Money in the Bank in London, then it will be the first time, right, that I know of at the very least, that a major champion hasn't defended the championship between WrestleMania and SummerSlam, and that is a long distance to go. People have been injured for a shorter time and have had to vacate the championship. So quite frankly, it is ridiculous, right? It's ridiculous from a booking standpoint. It is kind of frustrating. I know there's some scheduling issues and all of that. He's on a reduced schedule now, which is fair enough. I'm not hating on it. He's spending time with his family. But come on, you need to be booking him in championship feuds. However, I mean, the answer there is, okay, well, Jimmy versus Roman at Money in the Bank. Well, slight issue. Because the pay-per-view after that is SummerSlam, and at a stadium SummerSlam, you're going to want the Universal Championship to be defended. You're going to want that to be the main event because they've not sold out the stadium yet fully. So they'll want a major marquee Universal Championship match, right? Because I do think that Usos versus Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa would be a big marquee match, but also the major singles title does draw money. A lot of times when friends who are, casual fans come to me and ask me about a pay-per-view, they'll ask who's fighting for the Universal Championship. They're not necessarily as bothered, especially when it wouldn't even be a tag team championship match. It would just be a normal tag team match. So they're in a sticky situation here. Could you maybe do Jimmy at Money in the Bank, Jay at SummerSlam, and then at the pay-per-view following the tag? I don't know. What do you think, Anthony? Give me your thoughts.
WWE's in this weird position, whether it's Roman holding the title or Brock, they tend to just go, yeah, we don't care about our own rules about how long you've gone without defending the title. I've always been a strong believer in you should have to defend the title once at least every 30 days. I've always agreed with that standpoint, but WWE tends to ignore their own rule when they choose to. They did the same thing years ago with Dean Ambrose with the U.S. title, and it was even a joke on TV that he never defended it. I think realistically, I think it's probably going to be Usos against Roman and Solo at Money in the Bank. I think that's the direction they're going to go. I think Jay's going to be caught in the middle where Roman goes, you need to choose. Are you choosing your brother or are you choosing the bloodline? Although it did look like Roman kind of kicked them both out, I think obviously Jimmy's the most egregious one because he's the one that actually super kicked Roman and Jay didn't. But I'm sure Solo's pissed because both his brothers kicked him. So I think that's the direction they're going to go. And I know I said it in passing on here multiple times. If the direction they're going down the road, if it is Cody at 40, I jokingly said that Roman has enough family members he could feud until Mania just with going through his family members. It's possible. With the limited number of times he's defending the title, it's possible. Realistically, when you look at it, I mean, I don't know who else are you going to put him up against. There's really nobody.
I mean, Bobby Lashley. That's the big one.
Yeah, you could do Lashley, but Roman's going through him. Lashley's not the guy that's going to beat him.
That's true.
I don't think Lashley's the one. If it's not Jay, if it's not Sammy, then it's got to be Cody. They're the only three that fit, really.
It's true. It is very, very true. And I still think it will be Cody, but I mean, who knows? I mean, I would really, really like to see Bobby Lashley and AJ Styles feud with Roman this year. I said this when his draft happened. You have two major feuds there, and of course, then you have the Bloodline, which you could have done. And I think, obviously, that's what they're probably doing in the short term now. But Bobby Lashley versus AJ Styles for the second half of the year, I think is certainly something WWE should do. Maybe Lashley, Roman at the Rumble. because that would be a big match too. Styles and Roman, we haven't seen them face each other at all since 2016 when they had those two matches, which I really loved. I did. And yeah, I mean, who knows what will happen? But Shad, what is your thoughts going into tonight?
Going into tonight, so obviously we're gonna see everything continue from what happened at Night of Champions, and at the moment, obviously the hot feud for him is upon his family. It's Roman versus the Bloodline. Preferably Roman versus Jimmy. Will that be the match at Money in the Bank? I'm not sure. I think there's going to be some variation. I could see what Anthony is saying. I could definitely view a tag team match happening. It really depends how Jay aligns. If Jay, and which I think he will, because I mean, he's his brother's keeper at the end of the day. They bleed the same blood, like him and Solo do too, but they twins. They came out around the same time, so I can see it being the tag team match between the Usos versus Roman and Solo. So, but in my opinion, now, who I would like to see him have his next feud with, not being tied to the Bloodline, I think it's AJ Styles. Like you said, I think we have something that you can even create the feud with. AJ Styles had that interview where he kind of poked at Roman Reigns' title reign and how going into the last week's match, it felt like a secondary title. We could play off that. You can play like, hey, I know what that's that. I want yours. What I want is that title. Those titles that you have, that's what I want. I want yours. You can build something to that. Because like y'all said, I mean, there's not a big amount of like SmackDown's roster has a lot of high-level mid-card guys, and where Roman is within these pay-per-views, I feel like he's going to have to feud with a main event person, or he's going to have to feud with one of the people tied to his family, whether it be like Jay or Jimmy, so whatever it may be. But to me, I would love to see him and Jimmy have a match, obviously, what went on. If that could be a title match, I would like to see that, or him versus AJ Styles, because I think there is a bit of a story you can tell. You can have him interrupt today's celebration and go from there. But yeah, those are the two ones I would like to see happen.
Absolutely. I mean, it is kind of, there are limited options, but I think they do have enough to take them to Mania, but it's just about how they navigate it. I mean, in hindsight, I think they probably should have just had him defend the belt in a singles match at Backlash, because then you probably could have gotten away with, doing the Usos versus Solo and Roman at Money in the Bank, and then waiting until SummerSlam for the defense, because that would then be equal in what Brock did, because Brock, in one of his reigns, only defended once between Mania and SummerSlam. But we're going to have to just wait and see. But it's certainly going to be interesting tonight on SmackDown. Roman Reigns celebrating those 1,000 days as champion. The bloodline is just in chaos. It's crumbling. Sami Zayn said it was going to happen, and it's happening. And also, I loved how, Sami Zayn, obviously, and Kevin Owens being involved in the match where the Usos turned, Jimmy turned on Roman. That was brilliant storytelling as well, but the bloodline is starting to crumble. It's the 1,000-day reign. It's going to be a very newsworthy SmackDown, I have a feeling. And of course, we'll see where the Hit Row OC stuff go and the Money in the Bank qualifying matches. But that pretty much brings us to the end of the show, guys. A quick note about the show tomorrow. It will be at a later time because Chaos is hosting the show as I'm traveling back to Wales. While Clark, of course, is over at a wedding currently, so it'll be tomorrow. It'll be at 10:30 p.m. UK time, which is 5:30 Eastern and 2:30 Pacific time. And then finally, of course, please leave a like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, or a follow and 5-star over on Spotify. Thank you guys for watching. And of course, for all the latest wrestling news, rumors, reports, and all of that, reviews, opinion articles, lists, all of that, check out WrestlingRepublic.com. With fans, for the fans, without the dirt. Thank you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy your day.